I believe we're here. Part of me feels like I deleted a part of this episode, but that's okay. Anyways, chapter 3, The Queen's Gambit. Lying on my sofa, staring at my ceiling, I felt a little like I had stumbled into a strange alternate universe. Mostly because it wasn't my ceiling, but it looked like my ceiling. I suppose most ceilings are similar though. But, well, it was my sofa, my room, my decorations, and I sat up and looked around, that sense of unexpected familiarity washing over me again. It was the same, all of it, but just not quite. They had tried though. I wasn't sure if they were that worried about me adjusting here or feeling guilty for ripping me away from all that was recognizable. Either way, since they'd shown me to my quarters earlier in the morning, I'd continue to have the eerie sensation of that being at home while knowing full well I was at Cor Solaris. The disconnect was messing with me. I stood in the door for a long time, looking around with that alternate universe feeling smacking me in the face. What is this? It's your flat. Surprised? I suppose that's one word for it. How did all my things get here? We sent a team through it all the same day. Caleb and Ari grabbed you off the street like two criminals. And you rebuilt my entire apartment here? More or less. I mean, I didn't, but a team of some sort did, yeah. Come on, check it out. I followed her inside, eyeing the architectural elements with curiosity. Even the fixtures are the same. We are an organization that cares about the details. A little too much, some might say. This is kind of weird. Don't like it? Magnus was sure you'd want your personal belongings and thought you might be more at ease in a familiar setting. The fact that this was his idea makes sense somehow. We can change it if it's a problem. It's not a problem. I just, didn't expect it, that's all. It's great, I think. You don't sound too sure. Well, at the very least, I'm glad I don't have to buy an entire new wardrobe. I mean, that is a plus. I wasn't ungrateful that they'd gone through the effort to bring my personal items here. I couldn't imagine how they found time to get my sofa and everything else. Though, there was a small part of me that wondered if they really brought my things or just cataloged them and got new ones. They wouldn't do that. That'd be even weirder, right? I mean, they had gone through the trouble to match the fixtures and replicate the floor plan. There's that little tear in the sofa. I could always check that. Momentarily, forgetting how weird it all was, I hopped up and crouched next to the sofa, trying to shove it away from the wall enough I could get a glimpse at the spot where Dad tore the fabric when I moved in. The stuff was supposed to be nearly indestructible too. So much for that, he had ripped it on the first day in the new place. But I couldn't quite see. I got the sofa a good shove right as the door chimed. Shoot. That would be Vanessa. Earlier, she promised me a tour of the tower since I'd seen little so far, courtesy of being cooped up in the medical ward for a week with Dr. Sasakai, scowling at anyone who so much as dared visit me. I went to let her in. Hey, how are you settling in? Oh, okay, I guess. There's not much settling to do. I mean, everything is kind of already settled. Then I hope you took the opportunity to rest. I've been resting since the day I got here. She laughed at that as she stepped inside. Right behind her was her wife. You remember Mara, right? Of course. Mind if she tags along? Not at all. You can't have thought she'd say no with me standing right here. That's why I told you to come with me now. No one can say no to that face. Mara's from the much less amazing Knight's Guard, Nori, but I still like her somewhat. Well then, if you enjoy sleeping on the sofa that much, you can just say it. Oh please, you'd freeze your butt off without me. Pretty sure it's the arm generating most of the heat and it's removable. Even though you know I'd gladly give you an arm and leg. If you asked, it doesn't generate heat unless it's attached. Alright. Why don't you two lovebirds wait a minute while I put my shoes on? At least the two of them were a fun distraction. As I went to get my shoes from beside the sofa, Mara poked around. Your place is pretty small, isn't it? They could have moved a few walls and gave you more space, All the places here are modular, so it's easy to redesign them. They modeled it after her place in New Albion. University student, wasn't able to afford much. Even in, what was it, prime tier or whatever it was? Even prime tier doesn't net you a decent apartment, unfortunately. Just live teachers and a lot of exams. Fair enough, I guess. But it seems like a waste to have such a tiny little place when there's plenty of space here. I didn't ask to have my place recreated. Van and Mara share a look I recognized right away. I finished putting my shoes on and stood with a soft sigh. Whew, I'm sorry, I didn't mean how that sounded. It really's fine. I'm used to living in the size space. Besides, there is a massive bedroom through that door. The only part they recreated was the living space and kitchen. The bathroom is bigger too. Might have been easier to just toss you in a new place, probably sending some mixed signals to your brain to have part of your flat to be so familiar. This is my first day out of the infirmary, so I'm a bit off kilter. I'll adapt. It'll help for you to see more than the infirmary in this place. Man, I'm looking forward to this tour you promised. Let's go. So this is a residential area, where it is, as you can see, it's pretty boring. Do all the agents live in this tower? Not all of them. The tower is mostly for labs, training facilities, workspaces, and the like. Only high-ranking agents live here for the most part. There are training rooms and lounges dispersed throughout the building. One you'll be using is 2 floors below us. It's the same one most of the guard members use, and it's the closest to where we live. So everyone else lives nearby as well. Both guard teams are on this floor. There are some other high-ranking espers too. A few empty suites. Some lower ranks and admin live on the lower floors. And above us, council members and offices. Oh, they give council members better accommodations than their highest ranking espers. I'd always assumed Endgame was all about the espers. Things were quite different from what I imagined. Or maybe I was just overthinking it. Where are we going first? We'd figure we'd show you around to some critical areas before we get to the more interesting parts. We're starting with the lounge. You can always cook in your flat, but a lot of us prefer the lounges after a busy day. It's good to know where they are anyway, since we all spend a lot of time off there. That makes sense. Also, Nori, we have a message for you from Magnus. Should I worry? I don't think so. It should be good news. You're being permitted to contact your family with some restrictions. You can't directly contact them now, but you can write a message and the admin will forward it to them on your behalf. Is that standard for people here? That can't be standard, right? It's possible communications with them would be monitored, so I think the admin wants to make sure your parents are settled and know information about their new location links. You're safe now, but there's still people who... New location? What does that mean? Nan glanced at Mara, who lifted her shoulders in a slight shrug, a puzzled look on her face. No one told you? Told me what? Your family was relocated, Nori. Your parents and brothers. I stopped mid-step, staring at her as I tried to work out what that meant. Relocated to where and why? Well, there's been some concerns about their safety now that it's clear you're within game. Why would that impact their safety? Families can be used as leverage, Nori, especially the families of high-ranking members like yourself. We can't allow a queen rank to be compromised that way, and we can't allow civilians to be put in danger because of something like that. I was trying to keep calm as I listened to their words, but anxiety was building in the pit of my stomach. Remarkably, my voice was steady when I spoke. Where were they moved to? Are you allowed to tell me that? All I know is they're somewhere in A-frame. Magnus altered their records, and their lives were totally unpinned in every way was imaginable. The panic began to seep out, my voice raised in pitch. And why am I learning about this now? Are they okay? Of course they're okay. That's the point of relocating them. But my brother was getting married, and from what I understand, the fiancé was relocated as well. My parents' work is taken care of, Nori. We have done this before. If not because of the abnormal recruitment process and for other reasons. No. That wasn't the point. I didn't think they'd be affected by this. I never wanted them to be affected too. Alright, come on. We can't continue this in the corridor. The lounge is around the corner. Let's find a place we can sit and talk this over. Van took my arm and I was too busy panicking to do much besides follow obediently. So many thoughts were flying through my head at light speed. What would this mean for everyone now? People were never just prepared to just pick up a move like that, and they move all the way to Afrey? Brian was still studying, and this kind of stress would affect his studies. Could Wayne continue to work with the safety department? What about Mom and Dad? Somehow I ended up at the table with my face in my hands. I'd been so caught up in my life had changed, I hadn't even considered the impact to everyone else. I hadn't even considered the possibility that there would be any impact to them. You okay? I don't know. There's just a lot, and every time I felt like I neared... What is that? homeostasis, something upset it all over again. Look, I'm sorry. If I had known that they hadn't told you yet, we'd have talked about it before we left your place. Her tone was comforting as she held my shaking hands and explained what resulted in this outcome. I barely heard a word of it. It seems drastic, but you have to understand, Nori. Most of us come here as children. Information about our families isn't available to the public. The records are protected. This isn't true for your family. Many people found out your identity, and by extensions, theirs. It would have been great if we could have taken our time to put protections in place with minimal disruptions, but it wasn't possible. I covered my eyes with my hand as I listened to her. I'm so stupid. If I hadn't hidden all this, if I had just told someone sooner, I've been so concerned about my stupid goals and now everyone's life was in shambles because of me. They must be so furious with me. I really screwed up. Nora, you did nothing wrong. Love, your family was going to get disrupted by this one way or another, whether it happened a decade ago or whether it happened now. There's no getting around that having people like us nearby disrupts things. They're safe, that's what matters. And this won't last forever. It's a temporary measure until everything blows over and more permanent solutions are put into place. My dogs are just wild. Just chill, dog. Hey. They love like to scratch their beds and stuff. Anyways, I know it seems like it, but it isn't the end of the world. Caleb fought hard to get the admin to let you contact them. Focus on that for now. Caleb did? And to be clear, Caleb being insistent about something usually means a lot of shouting and cursing. Can't forget the cursing. But why would he be so insistent? He had said he'd look into it, but I didn't think he'd go that far. Well, he's rough around the edges, but there's a soft-hearted guy locked in there. Like, deep down. Way down. Way, 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 way down. I know he didn't make the best impressions on you, but he was worried as the rest of us. With Crimson after you and... Crimson? Is that why they're worried about retaliation against my family? That the likes of Crimson had been after me. Jack didn't mention Crimson. No, he just mentioned the court. He said that he had a friend there, and that was who located me. I guess it was the king rank Magnus mentioned. The one who located you was a king rank associated with Crimson. Not that we hadn't heard rumors that there was a link between Crimson and the court, but it's sometimes tough to get into Delphine to verify that stuff. So Jack is part of the Crimson. He is now. He used to be a part of Endgame. That was a while ago. Now he works for Crimson's king rank. I rubbed my forehead, running my fingers along my brow bone. That explained that weird familiarity he had with Caleb and Ari. I know I was in danger, even without you throwing scary names around. I understand that's why my family was in danger too. I just wish there had been another way. With so many groups converging on you, she trailed off. I'm sure everything we say sounds like we're just trying to justify ourselves at this point. It isn't that. I know that you were doing what you thought was in everyone's best interest. I get that, I do. I looked around the lounge, grateful that we were mostly alone. Given the time, most agents had to be working, and I didn't even know what that looked like. What did they even do when people weren't? When there weren't people that needed saving? Or maybe there was just always someone that needed saving. Even with Morai's insight, managing the future is tricky. We do our best, but sometimes there's collateral damage. Are you saying my family's collateral damage? No, that's not what I meant at all. That's not what I mean. It's just that even if we can see part of the path ahead, that doesn't mean that we can barrel forward with some plan to change it all. So you're saying things happen the way they happen, the way they had to happen? What she's saying is this outcome was one of the better possibilities, as much as it's difficult for you to take it all in right now. Better possibilities? Even the best of us can see part of the future, Nori. Partial images, possibilities, pieces of a much larger path with many outcomes. If you rush in, you sometimes swap out one of those possibilities for something even worse. Or fall out, you can't just foresee. That's why we only make changes we can see clearly and try to focus on a few pieces as possible. There was also a very small window between when we learned about you and when we needed to act. We had to move quickly to secure you and your family, and I'm sorry it turned out this way. But you are safe, all of you. I know, I'm grateful for that, I really am. To be honest, this was kind of a first for us. There's not usually some huge race to grab the new high-ranked Esper that showed up. Families are informed through normal channels and everything is handled when Espers are so young. The fact that you're a queen rank and that you were an adult and that so many people found out about you and were trying to get to you first made everything so chaotic. No wonder Magnus seemed so annoyed yesterday when talking about My having hid that I wasn't desperate really made everything difficult for everyone, didn't it? This whole thing had been my fault. I can tell what you're thinking, you know. Well, you are a psychic. She laughed softly. I don't have to be to understand what you're thinking this time. Listen, don't blame yourself for what happened, alright? Just don't get stuck in that kind of thought process. How can I not? Putting my family through this? And all of you as well? I've never met your family, but surely they'll understand why you kept it to yourself. I'm so sorry you're going through all this. When children come here, it's so different for them. The enrollment process takes weeks, even months, and their parents often come here with them as a family. If not, it's still all set up so they have time to adapt. They go through the academy first, so they're not just joining a game. They're essentially going to be a boarding school for espers. Recruitment into in-game flows from that. It's not the same disruption you're experiencing, and a lot of kids are super excited to come here. Your situation is so different, and there's a lot of pressure from the council for you to hit the ground running and start training right away. It's not giving you time to adjust. And you know, you're right. If you were a low-level infantry, you probably wouldn't even be here. So you did nothing wrong. Doesn't it feel that way? What's it really like here, Van? What's it really like here, Van, when everyone isn't trying their best to make me feel comfortable? When they're not doing their best to ensure I don't fall apart? Not that different from what you've seen. Yeah, best behavior isn't a thing we do unless outsiders are looking. What you see is what you get when you're on the inside. We support each other a lot, you know. I won't say we're all like family. It's too big of an organization for all that. But some of us are like that anyway. People on the outside have an inaccurate view of what in-game is like. It's a lot like other jobs in some ways. We work, we get paid. But there are frustrating things too. There's orders we don't agree with, and when we have to follow them anyway. There are intentional politics, competing for high-level positions, toxic people, and great people. And there's a lot of responsibility and risk sometimes. That's something none of us can ever forget. There's a component of lack of choice too. Most of us didn't ask to be here any more than you did. We graduated the academy, and there's an almost automatic induction into in-game forces. But when you think about it, everyone is limited by their situation in life. Their skills or knowledge. New Albion is like that too, isn't it? A lot of what you consider a choice isn't a choice at all. She wasn't wrong on that one. If I had fewer advantages to start with, I wouldn't have been able to be on the path I was on. If things had just gone slightly different as a child, I'd already be a member of in-game. It's such a depressing way to view the world. I disagree, it's not depressing, it's realistic. You still get to choose how you react to things. What to do with the time that's given to us? She tipped her head to the side, a curious expression on her face. Just something I read in an old book once. You need to give yourself some time to come to terms with all this. I mean, I'm gonna be okay, but I don't have a choice. It's the time between now and being okay that's hard. Change like this always is. We're here for you, you know. I'm sure your family will be too. Mom might strangle me a little bit, but that's what they do, right? I mean, when I think about it, we should be more worried about Caleb and Arya than me. I hope I get to see the day your mom tells them off soundly. Me too. Maybe it's best not to think too far ahead right now. It's too overwhelming. I still wasn't happy about anything I've learned, but at least I was on the verge of a breakdown about it anymore. And I really want to talk to Mom, and I don't know, talk. Why don't you finish your tour for now and at least, you know, see what the place is like? You can write a message to your family when you get back to your place. I think I could do that. I'm a little calmer at any rate. I'll take that. There's been a lot on my mind lately, so... There's been a lot on your mind lately, so I think about it for a while. If only it was that easy. This whole place was a relentless reminder of everything that has happened. I could try though.